For our first Java file, let's learn about the one piece every Java file needs, and that is a method called main. I have a brand new file up in Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to type out the main method. Some of this I'll explain later, but I'll type this first. Public static void main, then in parentheses, string args, couple of square brackets, and then an opening and closing curly bracket. And what does all this mean? First, the void indicates that this main method does not need to return a value, like a string or integer. So we can run whatever we want inside the curly brackets. The static keyword here indicates that we can call this method without creating an object for it. This will come into play later when we start to build classes and objects. The string args part I'll explain in the next topic, as that is an exam topic on its own. In the meantime, let's do something within the curly brackets of this main method. I'll type system.out.print welcome to Java, and terminate the statement with a semicolon. Like a lot of other programming languages, we need a semicolon at the end of each statement. To run this, we first need to save this as a Java file. So I'll name this example 11a.java, as this is covering exam objective 1.1. Save it as a Java file. And right away we have a red squiggly, an error coming up saying that a class, interface, or enum is expected. That's good, because we now will see the second piece we need with every Java app, and that is a class declaration that matches the file name. So I'll go to the top of the code, create a couple of blank lines, and then type class ex11a, and open a curly bracket. And you'll see it gives us a closing curly bracket right away. But I need to move this to the end of the code, so I'll cut and paste this, because all of this needs to be inside of the class. I'll save this file. And there doesn't appear to be any errors here, so I'll right-click the screen, click Run Code, and welcome to Java prints right here. Not bad for a very first Java app. Now that we have run through our first Java example, let's take a further look at this main method inside of this code example. First, understand that every Java file has to have a main method, as that is the starting point for running a Java file. Later, we will see how we can have multiple methods, that is, actions, within a Java file, but this main method is always going to be the first one that runs. Without it, you don't have a runnable Java file. The main method also needs to be declared as a static method. As mentioned earlier, static basically means I can be run without creating an instance of me. This concept will be developed as this course progresses, but this means that this main method can be run without code to tell it to run, or again, create an instance of it. In other words, this main method does not have to be a template for other methods. Finally, the signature for this main method is this area that can hold an array, meaning a group of strings. This, you won't use that often, but you can use it for when you run a Java file from a command line, as we will do in a later topic. Sometimes you'll want to get input from a user and then calculate an output, for example. For now, just know that a Java file must have a main method. It needs to be static, so it can be run without an instance of it being created, and it requires a signature, an area, to where it can hold string arguments to be processed later. A later domain in this course covers, in good detail, classes and their objects. Being that Java is an object-oriented programming language, objects drive your programs. A class is an object template of sorts, and in this topic we're going to see how to consume an instance of a class we have built. In this business of coffee, tea, and cocoa products, we have, in this code example, a class called product starting on line 14. Don't worry about all of these details right now. Just know that each product has a type, a name, and a price. Up on lines 5 and 6, we have this class being consumed twice. First, we have the class name, then the instance name, which is product 1 in the first example, and then create a new product, a type of coffee, with a name of medium roast and a price of $9.99. Then on line 6, we have another instance of the class, this time for a brand of tea. Lines 8 and 9 print out the names of these two products. Let's run this. I'll right-click, run code. Here we see the two names of the two products. Again, we will cover this in detail later on, but this covers the exam topic on consuming an instance of our own class. Java code can be run from its developing tools such as Visual Studio Code. More likely, though, this code will be compiled and then run as an app or part of an app. One way to run this is from the command line. I'm going to run two code files from the command line, one with arguments and one without. Running a code file is a two-step process from the command line. Within this Visual Studio Code tool, I'll click the Terminal tab, and then I'm going to type javac ex112.java for the Java compiler and the file name, and then I'll press Enter to compile the file we did in the previous topic. Javac compiles the Java file. Then we can run it. I'll type Java ex112 and press Enter, and we get the output of the two products defined in the code. Now let's look at one with arguments. I'll open ex113.java, and we will run this with arguments as we're going to multiply a couple of numbers. The string arg's signature in the main method declaration has brackets, which means we can have an array, a group of strings. Arrays will be covered in more detail later, but for now, understand that this array has two args, or arguments. The code on line 8 takes these two strings, parses them out as integers, and then multiplies them. To run this, I'll go back to the terminal and type javac ex113.java to compile this file. Then I will type Java ex113 and then two numbers for arguments, 9 and 8. This will multiply 9 and 8. I'll press Enter, and we get 72. Imagine the possibilities you could have with this for both small and large-scale apps. This just scratches the surface of command line arguments. I encourage you to further investigate this, and one way to do this is to type javac -help. This gives us some different ways in which we can run this compiler. For example, I can type javac ex113.java -d and then c:\users/admin, and this will place the class file here. And Java -help gives us some options as well. Again, this is worth learning as you move more toward full-scale app development.